Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about pH. And basically what pH is by definition, it's the negative log of hydrogen ions. And as I mentioned yesterday, water is the only substance that has a true neutral pH, a pH of 7. And if you look at our line here, our pH scale, you'll notice that we have 0 to 14, with 7 being right in the middle. 7 is neutral. That means you have an equal number of hydrogen ions to hydroxide ions. Anything below 7 would be referred to as an acid, and it would have a higher percentage of hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions. Anything above 7 is referred to as a base. Sometimes you'll hear bases referred to as alkalines, and they have a higher percentage of hydroxide ions than hydrogen ions. And each level that you move, there's a difference of 10-fold. So, for example, if we were to go from 0 to 1, 1 would have 10 times less amount of hydrogen ions than the 0, and so on. It would have 10 times more hydroxide ions. And if we keep moving, this would have 100 times less hydrogen ions as a 0, but 100 times more hydrogen ions, and so on. So every level you go, it's 10 times. Now, the way that I remember this is I try to remember things in a kind of an interesting way, making it easy for me to remember. And I think of things in alphabetical order here. Okay, and numerical order. So 7 is neutral, it's right in the middle. So that's how I remember that one, and that's the pH of water. But anything less than 7 is an acid. So A for acid comes before B for base. So 1 through 6, or 0 through 6, comes before 8 through 14. So that's how I remember those. Also, I remember that 0 through 6 has a higher hydrogen concentration of hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions. And hydrogen, H, comes alphabetically before OH, which is for the hydroxides. So in order to remember this, you have acids are 0 to 6, neutral is 7, 8 through 14 is a base, 0 through 6, if they're an acid, that means they have a higher concentration of hydrogen ions, and bases, which have a higher concentration of hydroxide ions. And that's basically what pH is. So acids are compounds formed when there's a hydrogen ion in solution. That means that there's more hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions. And bases are formed when hydroxide ions are in solution. So you have more hydroxide ions than hydrogen ions in the solution. Now, we have substances called buffers. Now, buffers are weak acids and bases that can react with strong acids and bases to prevent sharp, sudden changes in pH. So if we're doing an experiment and we want our solution to remain at a constant pH, what we can do is we can add in a buffer, and these buffers will help to maintain the pH of our solution. Well, I hope you've learned a little bit about pH and what acids and bases are, and also buffers. We are going to be doing a lab focusing on pH, where we'll be looking at different types of substances using a pH meter and also pH strips to tell what type of substance it is, either an acid or a base. Well, that's all I have today on pH. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again very soon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.